Hey everyone, welcome to the top 20 for Tornado Photo of the Year. These are our top 20 selections. If you made the top 20, congratulations. Kudos to you, well done. This one had a little bit of some technical difficulties at the beginning, and so you might notice some weird editing for the first couple photos, but after that, should be smooth sailing. We want to thank Nick Dreischman from Extreme Tornado Tours for being our guest judge for this one, and for sponsoring the winning prize, the first place prize for Tornado Photo of the Year. It's awesome to have his perspective. He's seen over 150 tornadoes, and it's good to get his input and thoughts on these photos. So without further ado, here you go. So we'll start off with this first image. One of these ones that I think Dennis had said when we talked about it yesterday, or different photo of the year, that kind of had an old timey look to it, kind of a film quality. I do notice like a dust spot up here, but overall, the feeling of this with the flowers and the color contrast, it's beautiful. Nick, what do you think? The first photo you're looking at?
Yeah, I mean, when we first looked at this one, the thing that came to mind is it's almost like a photo of a tornado from the 80s, and it really kind of reminds me of a tornado photo that might be on a postcard that you would get like on a travel center in Kansas or something like that, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's super cool. There's a reason that those photos are on those postcards, but obviously big thing sticking out to you. You've got these bright yellow flowers up here. A little bit out of focus, but as a couple of you guys have mentioned, it almost kind of brings in a little bit of like maybe a depth to the photo as well.
Right.
So there's something really interesting about the photo. And again, yeah, this is kind of like postcard worthy to me.
Yeah, and you could probably this little yellow flower poking in here on the end, and just like maybe I think I see two dust spots. Like those little technical things could have helped a little bit, but yeah, it's soft up here, but you can tell the top of the corn is perfectly sharp, and so they focused. But I do like that depth, and I agree with you. The out of focus flowers kind of provides that.
I like this very, very much because it reminds me on the good old film days before everything was digital. So I like the approach on the editing here. Maybe there's some dust spot here, maybe some with a flower on the far right side. So it could be cropped out. So it's just some tiny little things, but overall, it's a very different style, like so many other tornado pictures. So that's the main reason why I like this one very much.
I actually really like the fact that it's a little bit below the grass line and that you're kind of looking up into it, and it's almost like this background element. And then that there's these yellow flowers really that contrast it nicely. I almost wish that those yellow flowers on the right side were also big like that on the left side. It really acts like somewhat of a framing device for this tornado in the back. There's this little yellow guy that's just poking off the edge. I don't know. You could probably just kind of crop that or even tilt the image a little bit, because it's really kind of difficult to tell exactly where the horizon is here.
Yeah.
So you could get away with just tipping it a little bit, and that might just crop that guy out. It does have this filmic quality to it that Dennis mentioned. It kind of reminds me of like a Time magazine cover from the 80s or something, that kind of grittiness to it. I really like this. It's quite different from some of the other tornado photos that we're looking at. That we're looking at in this contest, and so I like this unique factor that is going on here. I would be very happy with this image.
Yeah, I would have too. This image is just unbelievable. Nicely, it's probably a little maybe contrasty, and saturation's up a little bit, but it's just super duper incredibly sharp. Just a mass of debris everywhere, and a nice little story of this with this guy hanging out the window when you zoom in. I love that element of it. And Nick, I'm sure you've been close to tornadoes. Have you ever been this close?
Well, I've certainly been very close to tornadoes. I've been inside of a couple, actually. But those tornadoes certainly weren't as well defined as this. I've been wanting to see just one of these drill bit tornadoes like this at close range. And that's something I haven't had yet out of my 170 tornadoes that I've seen. But the coolest thing about this is you've got this really defined cut occlusion that's coming in, that cinnamon bun wrap. The most amazing thing about this photo is that they're very close to it. I mean, I would imagine they're probably 100 to 150 yards away, maybe even 100 yards. And you're getting this bottom action down here, but you're also getting the entire scene of the entire condensation funnel going up into the structure there. And that in itself is something really special. Overall, from technical merit, it's pretty well shot. There's a couple little things in there that you might be able to pick apart. But I just think it's really cool overall to be that close to a tornado and to get the whole scene into one photo.
I would want to be there. Personally, I'm always very much a stickler about getting humans and human elements and distracting objects out. But I think in this case, it works quite nice as a storytelling device. You know, you see these other chasers. You see that drill bit tornado just drilling into the side of the road, and that people are so close to it. You do have some distracting elements, of course. I mean, the cars, the road, the poles. But in this case, it really works. And I think even the poles on the side of the road, I might not even edit them out because they're quite symmetric, and it could frame the tornado in the center just nicely. The white balance and everything is well done here. And I rather like this image. It's really quite an exceptional moment to be there like that. I couldn't imagine. I might be a little scared. I've never been this close to a tornado, so.
Yeah, I would think that the drill bit part, and if you're following it, you know, you wouldn't be as scared. But I, again, am the same. I've seen lots of tornadoes. I've never been anywhere close to this close, maybe a mile away, 2 miles. But it would be nerve-wracking, but it would be thrilling. So, Dennis, what about you?
Yeah, I've never been so close to a tornado, never. So, yeah, I would love to be in this spot and follow just the tiny little
drill bit.
Tornado drill. Yeah, it would be amazing. Yeah, I love this shot so much because it tells so a great story with the chasers in front hanging out of the windows and are exciting about this moment. So yeah, on the technical side, maybe the contrast on the tree line in the background is a bit too much. I would just maybe a little bit, and I would crop out the first yellow line on the middle of the road because it's just showing up in just a tiny bit. So I would get rid of it because my eyes going to this point. So it's you could easily crop it out and then you are fine. But I'm blown away of the sharpness in this scene because it must have been very difficult to shoot this moment.
Yeah, kudos to getting this sharp and such a fast shutter speed where this debris is obviously very close and none of them seem to be moving. You don't have any of those like trails, and you can even make out like little vortices or something here in the drill bit. So it was obviously an incredibly fast shutter speed. So well done. All right, so we'll go on to this next one, which is a spectacular shot, and it's actually pains me a little bit, Dennis, and you've experienced this too, I'm sure, which is I was there, but I was east of it. This is actually where I got my windshield smashed from this storm from a tennis ball size hail, and my hood got a big dent. And so we blasted east to get out of the hail. And then we look back and we see a tornado dropping, but it was hill in front of us, murky. Like we were just looking through rain. And then, we start seeing some of these other pictures. And so the people that hung back got this epic view. And this is one of the cooler shots of a tornado. I mean, it's weird because you're, I think maybe it's the north side of it, maybe west, but I'm not quite sure, but it's silhouetted. I think it's the north side because I see the sun coming in and the horizon or the clouds in the distance from the right. So looking kind of, so the tornado silhouetted, which we don't, some of the other shots we've seen, you can see the white cone and the dust and it's great. But it's just the fact that you see the whole mesocyclone, the RFD cut, the colors. It's a stunning view of a tornado just to get all that. And I'm super bummed when I saw these and wish we had hung back just a little bit to see what happened.
Yeah, I think so. That's the point why I like this image so much, because you have the whole structure and the whole system of the meso,
Yep.
right, and completely covered in the whole image. And the RFD cut is amazing with the bluish tones, and it's brighter, and I love the contrast. It's so many different colors in here because of the storm, and I love this one very much. The foreground, I think it's cut very well, because almost too much, but it's okay for me.
Yeah.
So and I like the sun, so the deep sun sets, colorish,
yes,
cumulus towers in the back are great. You have some warm tones of the sun in the, I think it's in the lower left, it's the anvil, I think.
Yeah.
So this is great, and the very dark bluish storm cloud on the right, and the brighter bluish in the tones in the RFD cut, and it makes so. And the only thing, if you see the structure on the left side of the meso, I want to see the other side too of it. So
I know, right?
I want to see both sides, because, but I don't mind, because you don't have often this view.
Yeah. Well,
Most
and you
of
can
the times is from the other side. So
When you can, because of that left side of the structure that you're talking about, and you see how it's just beautifully curved up, and how awesome it looks, that you just can imagine what it looks like just a little bit down to the left, and what that, kind of, you probably have a beautiful mothership looking structure if you're just right down there to the left, and then you see that tornado. But this is just such a spectacular view. I think I'd love to know, like, from the raw file, if it's just the export or not. It's a little bit, some of the colors are a little muddy, and the only thing that the only nitpick I really have is you can kind of see a faint, like, maybe halo line on the horizon. But I agree with the foreground. It's not too much. You could have maybe cut it in just a little bit, but then you might lose this little edge, and you lose all of this. I love, even though this isn't part of the meso, in the center, I like the texture back here and that cut. So it's spectacular. I think the only thing I would have probably done maybe is get rid of this little the object sticking up, just because it kind of looks over the horizon's annoying. But that's just nothing. Like, this is a beautiful shot, and the colors are great. So kudos to the photographer for being in the spot. And I know there's rain and hail, I think, around this area. So, being able to get a shot that's in focus and of this tornado was difficult. So
and well framed. So the photographer might think about how I will compose this image too. So because you have the meso on the left side and the RFD cut on the right side, and the tornado in the center. So it's well done. So yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. All right. So this next image, one of the best looking Landspout photos I think I saw last year. This was Denver. It was most photographed Landspout probably of all time. But this was one of the best photos of it. And Dennis, I think you had some good thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I really like the mirroring of the Landspout and the lake in the foreground.
Yeah.
That's really great. I like this one. I think I've never seen anything like this. It's almost like a lightning at the ocean, and it reflects in the water. But here it's a tornado, so it's absolutely awesome scenery. So yeah.
And Nick, you were saying that it was kind of interesting how it's basically almost coming out of the precip, which is unusual.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, you picture a landspout is typically going to come out of a very laminar storm base and just be kind of out there on the horizon. But what you're looking at here is you've got the middle precipitation shaft that's just off to the left. And this landspout is very thin and laminar and coming out of that precipitation shaft. And then you've got this cumulus in the foreground that's giving a lot of depth and definition up there. And so that's really cool. And obviously you're seeing this really dynamic sheathing in the bottom of the landspout there. So you've got that very tight condensation funnel in the middle, and that's actually being wrapped around by that the dust sheathing there. which lends a lot to this one as well. So it's a unique tornado. These things can and do happen. It's kind of a Colorado thing to have this type of landspout come out of precipitation like that, but it's not very common. It's a really cool photo overall. If I had any, gripes to pick with it, to me, it looks like it's got maybe just a little bit of extra sharpening or some contrast enhancing going on. But it's just such a cool scene. This would be something that I think anybody would be proud to have like hanging in their house. It's just a really awesome photo.
Linda, what about you?
Yeah, what can I say? The thing that I like about the most about this photo is the fact that there's this lake in the foreground. I don't see a lot of tornado or landspout photos that have this sort of water in the front. And as Dennis already echoed, it's nice to be able to see this sort of reflection of the landspout in that lake. Yeah. I would say that some of the editing might be a little bit heavy-handed, over sharpening, over contrasting. The color work might need a little bit of help, but overall the framing and the composition is nice. I'd also spotted a bird there in the top right. I would just go ahead and evict that guy. He wasn't paying the rent.
Wasn't paying the rent. Yeah, I agree with all that stuff. I do think it's really cool how the funnel's white here where it's dark, and then it turns dark with the dust where it's really light. I love how the landspout decided to cooperate for the photographer. But I do think, with some of the haloing here and the noise, that it was a little bit heavy-handed, but what a stunning photo. And of all the pictures that I saw, this was like the best one from that event. So kudos to the photographer for probably last spur of the moment leaving their house and trying to make a photo somewhere. And what a great spot, well done. So I was going to say with this, when you're out chasing, what's amazing is sometimes just how much better the tornadoes look from the backside than they do in front. Cause I can see up here that probably the front of the supercell, maybe I know the structure on this day wasn't insane, but I'm a guy that tends to want to stay in front of the storm. And on this day, it just seemed like being behind it was just the place to be.
Yeah, that was my view of this storm too. If I had to say anything, I'd probably say that they're south looking north right now.
Okay.
Because we had a good cut of not completely clear, but we did have, and it was one of those deals where the backside of the storm, you were getting some really good clearing behind it there. Like the occlusion wrap, as that storm really started getting going, was incredible. It was one of those moments when, I could say we're going to see a tornado, and that doesn't happen very often. It was just the motion on that thing was amazing. But
yeah, Linda, what about you?
Well, I think this is a really amazing shot. I like that it's mostly a very clean frame, so it really just focuses your eye right on that tornado. They also managed to frame it kind of on this rule of thirds sort of situation, which works sometimes rather nicely. Yep. I think if I had to nitpick at anything, I would also echo the sentiment of maybe there's a bit too much of this bluish cyan in the sky that could be dialed back a little bit. Perhaps, I don't know about the original file. Maybe the original file is rather dark, but maybe the dark region just to the right of where it's kind of brighter in the image, on the third of the right of the image, I might, brighten that up just a little bit or make it look a little less muddy. It looked a little muddy to me. And if you really want to be picky, I might go ahead and try to remove that little white building because it's so bright. It really draws the eye to it. And I would like the eye to continue to be focused on that funnel of the tornado.
Yeah. Yeah, and I see that too, and I looked at it. I didn't know if it bothered me, but it definitely is bright, so I can agree with you there.
Yeah.
Nice image. All right, we'll go on to the next one, which is just obviously the same tornado, and just a crazy photo. I know, we always talk about, composition and the difference between taking a great, landscape storm photo and then also just capturing like the moment, like you're documenting it, and to me there's just I like that this one, even if there's power lines, I like the leading lines into it, which is, if you got it to do power lines, at least make the leading lines work instead of shooting across them. But this is just an awesome photo to me. I mean, there's debris in the air. I mean, the dust at the bottom looks like it's wrapping around the house, or at least it's right on the other side. And then you're just looking just like that one from the road earlier, just looking right up into it. And we know what wide angles do. Wide angles kind of compress things or make them seem, smaller. So this was standing there was probably just looking straight up at it, at where the funnel was. But the wide angle kind of makes it look like it's bending away from you at the top, but just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, he's pretty darn close here. I mean, it's or he or she. It's probably 300 yards away. A lot going on with this. You want to talk about action in your shots? This is it right here. And beautiful stuff. The striations up above the condensation funnel are amazing. Yeah. You can actually see that dust being pulled up and around at the top of the condensation funnel. If you look down at the surface level, you can actually see a rear inflow jet that's coming in and around that tornado, which is something that's really difficult to capture. It's pretty rare to get a photo where you can actually see that type of thing. But, as far as settings, there's a lot going on there. I think they're pretty good, but again, kind of hard to get around that kind of foreground composition. But I mean, talk about an action shot. This is the one.
Yeah. Dennis, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. This is almost the definition of action. So I think the photographer did a very great job on this one, because everybody knows how you are excited in such a moment, and to get the settings on your camera right is not. Yeah, maybe we all messed up shots in the past. I think under pressure and when the action is there. So I appreciate this, that everything works well here, and I like the shutter speed, because you can see some in the left side. I think it's a tail or so.
Yeah.
But you can see the movement, and I like this one. This here, maybe I have to go on the right side with the trees. Maybe the contrast is here a bit high or so, because it's in some spots very, very dark. But I don't mind for the uniqueness of this shot.
Agree. Linda, what about you?
Yeah, I think my sentiments echo very closely to what Dennis just said. I'm not sure what else to really add. It's an amazing shot. It really gives like a sort of journalistic documentary type feel to it, which I don't see in a lot of other shots. And I really like that about it. Everything in the environment is showing you chaos, and the power lines and everything being there, sort of serving as almost like leading lines. I'm really not bothered by it in this case. But again, as great of a shot as it is, I think some of the editing could be tuned a little bit, as Dennis was saying, and that would be really my only gripe in this case.
I do think just noticing the horizon here is a little lower than it is here. So there might have been just a little bit of, cropping and not cropping as much as just leveling a little bit. But you don't really notice that. At least it took me. I've seen this image multiple times already, and so I didn't even notice it till now. But I just love it, and I think Nick, you were mentioning the dust up here wrapping around. That's just fantastic. So we'll go to this next one, which is it's one of my favorites from the entire, like, all the submissions. There's something I think Dennis mentioned about the shutter speed on the last one. This one, it may be a little bit slower. I don't know, because there's a little bit of motion here, and obviously this thing was cranking. But it makes the tornado look nice and smooth. Everything in the foreground is it's so incredibly sharp. Like, so technically this was just done well, and it wasn't edited very like heavy-handedly. It just feels super duper clean, and there's just all this awesomeness in the foreground to give it scale. I just really like this one. Linda, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I also really like it. And although this for me has a very kind of minimalistic look, I actually prefer the previous shot. It feels more dynamic, to echo just how chaotic things were while on the ground there. This image looks fairly flat and even across the board. perhaps some of this could be fixed with editing, maybe darkening some of the areas around the funnel, in this case, to up the contrast between the light on the funnel and the darker clouds in the back. And perhaps this would set the image off just a little bit more. But in terms of just the photo itself, like you said, technically it's amazing. I like to be able to see this sense of scale that you get between the things on the foreground. Just overall, the image felt a little bit flat to me.
Yeah, I can kind of see that too. Like even one more, like another round of contrast would probably almost just be enough, like either globally or just pick your spots. But there's a lot of textures and details there in the clouds that you could make pop a little bit.
Yeah, I probably affect it not globally. I'd go in there maybe with a brush and just.
I really, really like this photo a lot. First of all, you've got quintessential tornado, right? Like this is iPhone tornado emoji style tornado. And fully condensed, beautifully condensed, extremely laminar. You can see some good action there up in the collar cloud as it comes out of the mesocyclone. I felt that it was shot very well. It's very sharp. It's even. The dust cloud is proportionate to the tornado. I thought that this one kind of just really had it all for me. I think that there might be like some small technical things that are in there, but I had trouble picking this one apart, to be honest.
Yeah. For me, it's almost a classic tornado shot. If you think about a tornado and for me, it's a shot like this. So that's just a classic one. And maybe it's a bit flat in the sky. So, but I don't mind in this case so much because it for me it's better. It's a bit more flat than overhanded. So too much contrast or so. Because in this particular scene, I don't mind. I like it the way it is. So maybe here and there, but we are talking about
nitpicking.
Yes.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I think I mean this whole thing is just so great. I think for some reason I love this little area here. I just love the tornado looks soft and you can see the texture and the dirt around it. I think it's amazing that it's, like what you guys said, it's like this is almost what if you were to think of a tornado, this is what it would look like. A beautiful like white tornado with a little dust at the bottom and all this stuff, like just great. Yeah. So we'll go on to the next one, the amazing Sudan tornado. I wish it would have maybe fully condensed all the way to the ground for a little bit longer, but this is from a different angle from where I was when I was there, but this is just this was without one of the highlights of the year for me, this spot. Because this storm has all this beautiful structure. You see the updraft just exploding, and then there's a tornado. It's very rare to get all the structure of an entire supercell in a tornado and have no rain or anything. This is just so rare. So to be able to be there to capture this, it was kind of a dream. So I like this shot. It's got the sprinklers in the foreground to kind of give it some scale, and I like their position. I think I was actually a little further south, so where they are, they've got the nice towers, like the detail of that, and a little bit of bluish like hail colors in the upper right here. It's just a wonderful shot.
Yeah, super rare to have tornadoes underneath a structure and that type of thing. You've got that really crisp, defined cumulonimbus up there. Which is sometimes difficult to capture without getting a little bit of something blown out, especially when you're on this side of the storm here. So you're seeing a little bit of that off to the left there. There are some tricks out there to modify that type of thing. But you've got a beautifully almost condensed tornado, but very laminar. And it's just overall, it's a really, really cool picture.
Linda, what do you think?
Well, I really like this shot. It's a nearly perfect shot to me. And I have to say that I'm quite picky when it comes to like technical details, but also the post-processing. I think, half of it is taking the amazing photo and half of it is bringing it, to life in in whatever program that you use to work on your images. And so in this particular case, I absolutely am mesmerized by this structure. I like that you can see basically from left to right the whole thing and the whole situation, and these cumulonimbus right above the middle. What I might have done is, I don't know, for some reason I want to see just a little bit more to the right, you know?
Yeah,
Maybe
thinking
this is,
the same thing.
yeah, maybe this is because it's, you know, on the left you have these brighter regions that are a bit distracting to my eye. And like Nick already said, there may be some technical issues with shooting in this direction where this is so bright. It's hard to bring back, and that's maybe why there is some of this brighter area behind there that looks almost a little bit muddy. They tried to bring that back. And then I feel that they might have put some editing just on the, let's call it the brain part, right above the structure there. I might dial that back just a little bit because it doesn't seem to match what's going on to me underneath, which is a little bit more smearing and a little bit more ethereal look. I would continue to echo that throughout the rest of the image. But to me, other than those tiny nitpicky things, and we are nitpicking because we are trying to decide what is the absolute best. Make no mistake about it. This is an amazing capture, but you know, we're having to pick at it. So those are the things that I might change or.
Yeah, I kind of thought the same thing with moving to the right, because the left side, you know, out over here is not as important. You could almost either crop it in a little bit to center that part, or get a little bit more over here, but
or a little wider. You know, I don't mind that it has a little bit of breathing room there on the left, you know, obviously, but I just want to see just a little bit more.
I know, that's where I keep going. I keep feeling like I want to go that way.
Yeah.
And it's so hard on some of these, depending on the kind of, you know, lens you have, because a lot of these, if you're close, you know, you need a really wide angle lens to get it the entire storm in there, and that's tough.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go on to the next one. This is obviously, I think, the same photographer. I think it's interesting, Dennis, I'll let you talk about it, but I think it's interesting because the one we saw before that we're talking about from the same spot, there were power lines. And then obviously in this one, the power lines are gone. But it had a little bit of a different, I think, angle of the shot. So, but it's still insane. Dennis, what do you think?
Yeah, crazy image. It's incredible. So I love the debris cloud around it, the dust. It's getting so much more contrast to the whole action around the tornado. And man, I wish I were there. So I've been there. So can't wait for May. So yeah,
I know.
Yeah, these kind of images are getting me excited for storm season. So, and maybe. So we talked about the other image earlier. So I think there are some similar technical issues in this one. I see on the far right side, on the bottom right, there's something that's coming into the scene.
Oh, right there.
Yeah, it's just some pixels there, but I think you can get rid of it and it's okay. And the power lines, we like them in the first one, and I think they will work in this one too.
Yeah.
So, but overall, what an incredible scene. Yeah, love this one.
Nick, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, you know, what can you say? It's mind blowing. I would imagine the photographer shot this at something like 14 millimeters and still couldn't get the entire thing in frame.
Yeah.
Very close at this point, probably closer than the other photo if they are the same photographer. Yeah. One of the things I wanted to kind of note that I didn't talk about before on the other photo is that you're actually getting light on the dust cloud. And I think that that's one of the really cool things about this, and obviously the tornado too. And so you're getting this juxtaposition between this good lighting on the dust cloud and then obviously the really dark background going back into the storm there. And I just have to touch on that rear inflow jet there that you're seeing that's sweeping into the tornado, what storm chasers like to call the ghost train. It's just it really lends a lot to the photo. And again, you know, this is full blown action at its best out there from close range. So.
Yeah, I think, you know, like Dennis said, I think you could have probably just left the power lines in there. Although I think the last one, it was a little bit more to the right. So it felt like maybe the lines were just a little bit more leading, and here it felt like they were more covering the scene. But to me, I have no problem with getting rid of the power lines. I think if I were to do it, I would just go ahead and get rid of the power poles too, so that my brain doesn't go, well, where are the power lines? Because I see the poles. And so then I know they've been taken out. Just to like a little thing, like it's kind of one of those things, like if you see a barbed wire fence and you want to take part of something out, but you leave other stuff there,
Yeah.
you know, in your brain, you look at it and go, I know there's something there. And so I would have just taken out these last 4 probably power lines and just kind of left it at that. But this is just fantastic. And I think just looking up here, I noticed there's a couple look like maybe some water spots, like from raindrop up here, because it looks a little like a opposite reflection or something. But I'm sure that there was rain and hail and stuff going on at this point. So I'm with Dennis in that I'm excited for May, and I wouldn't mind being close to a tornado like this at some point in my life. So, all right, we'll move on to the next one, which is just bonkers with the action. If there was anything we've talked about that has been action packed, it's this one. And I believe this was in northern Italy. Is that what you said, Dennis? Or
yes.
Yeah, northern Italy.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Linda, what do you think of this one?
Well, wow, what an impact factor. Let's just start there. In terms of, this photo has quite a few technical issues, I think, both in capturing the image and maybe a little bit afterwards, but that may have also been related to how it was captured. But I'm really, really drawn to this image. I love that all of this debris is flying around. It is so dynamic. It is so aggressive. And it really, I put it there, and I can almost feel the rush of the cold air and the debris, and like just getting that stuff pelting on the side of your face and trying to hide behind your car and trying to get this shot. So I think this is an incredible photo. Even the composition is nice. I know it has some elements in there that I usually try to avoid, but this photographer was able to mix all these things together in a way, and I think come away with a really great image, even if it has some technical difficulties.
Yeah, Nick, what about you?
I mean, it's a wild photo, right? Like, I mean, you've got debris is from the edge of each frame, top to bottom, left to right, and to get that and to have the wherewithal to have your shutter just about right. I mean, it's just giving you every bit of action that's going on. A little bit of technical stuff there, maybe a little grainy, a little noisy. My whole thing is that although it's super crazy and you could just see, I mean, there's a large piece of debris flying over the road down there. It's absolutely
amazing.
You know, when you're thinking about a tornado of the year photograph, and I mean, obviously this is a tornado. It's not.
It's ripping up the ground. It's sure ripping up the ground.
It's certainly a tornado. But when I think of the tornado photo of the year, I kind of think of a fully condensed tornado. That's just me. And I hate to be nitpicky that way because this photo is crazy. It's ridiculous.
No, it's fantastic. I think one of the things about the debris that's so cool on this side is it just looks like it's shooting in like stars on like you're like the Millennium Falcon with the stars streaking by, that adds so much of an impact. I know it's
that tree in the bottom left corner.
Yeah, this tree is just fantastic. I know that the technical issues, kind of stink with like the sharpness. I don't know there's some artifacts here which make me think it was, maybe over sharpened a decent amount because it looks like it was kind of out of focus. So they probably tried to compensate using something to maybe bring the sharpness back. And, and I've used some of those programs where it can help, but also if you look really close, you're like, I can kind of see a little bit of artifacts, but just that, the action packed, I mean, they're only like maybe a quarter mile away from where this stuff is getting ripped up. And so you got to do what you got to do. And sometimes in photography, photos that aren't in focus are still just as beautiful and can have impact and meaning. And I think this is kind of one of them. It looks maybe muddled in some of these spots where I thought maybe it's noise, but it also could just be the rain streaks, the curtains of rain wrapping around this as well, because the road is wet, so we know that's going on. But just really powerful. I just couldn't believe it when I saw it. I thought this was a Lockett tornado until I saw it was from Italy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a photo I had not seen, I don't think, last year.
Yeah. I'd like to know if they were like shooting through their windshield or if they were outside, because if they're outside, they've got some serious ones for sure.
Yeah. I got to think that they were in the car.
Yeah. I hope so.
Because it looks like you would have gotten hurt pretty bad. But I know on that Minnesota tornado last year was Michael Mars or somebody who was on it. Mars lost a tooth or something because he was standing outside. Yeah, so some people will do that, so I'm not quite sure.
Hardcore, man, hardcore.
Yeah. All right, we'll go to this next one. Dennis, what do you think of this one?
In the first place, I like the contrast between the funnel and the dust swirling around. But I don't like so much the foreground on this one. Yeah, it's not leading my eye to the tornado or so, but overall, technically, I think it's well balanced. The contrast is okay, and I think it's very sharp.
Very sharp.
Yeah, that's very sharp. Yeah. So I have nothing to say about this. I like the lighting, but maybe it's just for me the foreground.
Maybe a little up a little bit where you don't have so much of it.
Yeah, maybe this will work. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but overall, a great tornado shot. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Linda, what about you?
Yeah, I feel basically the same as Dennis. I hate to say that I don't have anything creative to add. But I will say that there is something kind of going on in the top left of the frame. I don't know. And originally, when I just saw this image without zooming in on it, I thought there was maybe some weird chromatic aberrations there along the side of the funnel, you know? But zooming in on it, I don't really see this. Maybe this is just an effect of the long exposure, or perhaps there was some kind of editing that kind of affected this area in just this way.
Yeah.
I feel that maybe, I mean, the white balance feels a little off to me. It's a little on the cool side. You know, usually clouds aren't blue like that during the day, where it's white. And so I think combined with what Dennis said, I might adjust the white balance a little bit and see where things are at that point. But great shot. I mean, I would love to get a shot like that. It's amazing.
Yeah, this was like one of my favorites too. It obviously is, you know, well shot. I'd have to agree with Linda on the white balance thing. I think it's a little on the cool side. One of the other things about this photo, I mean, again, we're nitpicking. Like this is like a super awesome tornado photo that anyone should love to have. But it kind of begs me to like want to kind of see a little bit more of the scene around it. It's kind of like, here's tornado, it's all tornado. So there's something in the back of my mind that's just like, I wonder kind of what a little bit everything else looks like around it. But other than that, I don't have much to take away from this photo.
I definitely would agree with you guys. It's a little bit on the cool side. I think I would have warmed it up a little bit as well, and maybe just pan the crop up or, you know, wider. But because it's kind of what we talked about on some other ones yesterday, that this foreground is probably not doing that much. I would want to see more of the higher up portions of the tornado. So still, you know, I would have liked to have been there, and I would have loved to have a chance to take this shot. I do give kudos to the sharpness and quality of it, because it's very hard. It's very hard to get out there and shoot these when your adrenaline is probably pumping, like in all these tornado shots, that the adrenaline is pumping, you know, your heart is racing, and to be steady and take a sharp photo is, you know, that takes, you know, skill and practice. So
I wanted to add something else to this in terms of editing. If you leave a bit, if you're married to this idea of having this foreground in there, one other trick that you could try to do is perhaps reduce the overall contrast or clarity on the foreground to kind of keep your eyes away from there, because we don't really need to look at how detailed those little sticks are in the foreground.
Yeah. So
you could try to blur that a little bit, or put a bit of a vignette there to kind of lead the eye away from there. That might be another trick.
That's a good suggestion. I agree. Because your tendency is to want to almost sharpen that and make it look really cool, and then it does kind of draw your eye away from other things. So good call. I like this one where you don't, I mean, kind of like as opposite of what Nick was saying, where you want to see more. I just love the scale in here with the trees, and this is one of the other ones that's like technically looks really, really sharp, because there's just so much tiny debris. Probably the more you zoomed in on the full raw, it would have been even better. But I don't know if this is I know we talked about this in photo of the year, I believe, or maybe it was in photographer of the year. I know we've seen this image already, but I can't tell if this was debris from the tornado or just a bunch of junk in this field. If it was debris, it really adds to the story of what's going on in this, and I love the colors in the tornado too, being kind of a cool white and that blue in the air, just really, really nice.
I'd imagine that probably is tornado debris. I mean, you've got a piece of tin there that's kind of curved around. It's such a nice, clean looking field there. I can't imagine that stuff would have just been left out there before. But I mean, who knows? That you kind of would, imagine you would see some tree damage behind it as the tornado's moving away. But who knows the situation? But this tornado is so soft, and that softness is kind of what really was interesting to me about this tornado, because again, you've got this juxtaposition of tornado doing damage, debris flying around, and then very soft tornado. And so it's a cool shot. And so you've got that soft background as well, and then some sharp trees in foreground, which is really interesting.
Yeah, I like the contrast between the upper part of the image. It looks like a painting almost, and if you are going more to the bottom of the image, it's getting more real because of the sharpness and all the details are coming into this one. And that's maybe for me the main reason why I like this one so much. And I like how the tornado's going from the top left to the bottom right across the frame. And this one fills the whole image with so much to see, but there is not so much to see. You know what I mean? But you want to see every detail in it, and you are looking for every debris part, and it's fun to look at it.
Agreed. Linda, what do you think?
I have some unpopular opinions, I guess, about the image.
Let's go.
In the contrast to what Dennis was saying, the fact that it's so smooth and almost ethereal on the top and a bit more sharper on the bottom, for me, kind of gives me a pang of, there's something about that I don't really like. And I can't quite put my finger on it. Sometimes it's so subjective and it's really hard to say exactly what. For some reason, on the bottom left corner, there's like a little dark, I don't know if it's dirt or a little stick that sticks up just on the very bottom of the frame. That guy. My eye just keeps going over there. So I don't know if you could, I would crop just right above that to where that white piece that's kind of along the center in the middle is closer to the bottom of the frame. And I say this because so much of that funnel is white on the top of the frame. It might help balance your eye out from bouncing around. The other thing is, I wonder what's just to the left just a little bit here. You know what I mean? The crop. I don't know if this was cropped and that was already the far left side of the image, but I would want to see to the left a little bit. And of course, I wasn't there. But was this funnel really this gray? Was it really this desaturated? I feel, did this person perhaps go in and desaturate certain areas a little bit that had more of an orangey hue to it? Also, if I look at the trees below, I can see like this bluish green in the shadows. And so for me, there's maybe something going on with the white balance that I would fix. But like we said, we're being very nitpicky. This is rather an amazing thing to see.
I do, in response to kind of what you said, I do think because it's like ethereal at the top and super sharp at the bottom, I think with tornadoes, you're almost stuck with that unless you're shooting at like ISO 3200 and doing like a 1/3000 shutter speed or 4000s to like make it super crisp, because tornadoes are just spinning so fast. There's just not much you can do unless you just got the fastest shutter speed possible. So I think
that's why it's so important sometimes to not make changes to photos globally. And you could affect that background. I mean, obviously everybody edits it slightly different, and I'm by no means an expert at anything, but you could edit the foreground in a way that it makes it a bit more matching to the top, maybe reduce the overall contrast or clarity that you've introduced in the bottom, and just
I agree, and I think the suggestion of the things at the bottom, those are just the little things that I think we don't think about. But anytime I'm the same way. Anytime if I had an image where it feels like something's coming from the bottom, it happens a lot when you shoot in the desert. You got saguaros sometime, and you just got the top of the saguaro because you're aimed high, and you feel like you're missing something. So just using like content aware to just kind of get rid of some of that stuff that's leading off edge is super easy to fix that. So awesome. All right, we'll go on to this one. which is another one it's a little bit different because we've had the ones with so much debris, and this doesn't really have any debris, but the motion from the sideways flying rain and hail adds so much, dimension to this. My first thought when I look at this is like it's super duper, powerful. I would maybe I wouldn't have done anything because I would have been terrified to get anything anywhere closer. I would have probably wanted to stand out here and to have nothing but this field, so I didn't have this line going across. But I mean, like, that is a freaking huge tornado, and I would think I would just stand out of the car and take a quick picture and probably get back in because it's terrifying. And then my other thought is I can't tell if there's, like haloing with the editing here, or if this is like just rain falling down and that's, just natural. So, but just a beautiful, tornado with just a lot of energy and, chaos kind of going on.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I'd have to say, I've seen tornadoes in this position before. It reminds me of Canadian Texas 2019
Yes.
to an extent. Very, very difficult shooting conditions when you're shooting a tornado that dark. Likely the reason it's looking that dark, it's probably a combination of just the soil here, but it's not only that. They're shrouded in clouds 360 degrees there.
Yep.
And so it's just really tough to shoot. I would say overall, given the circumstances, it's shot very well. I think that one thing I noticed is that other people might not notice, they're actually a lot closer than I think most people would think in this photo, which makes things even more difficult.
Yeah.
And just like you were saying, you get that close to a tornado, it has a violent appearance because it's very dark and brooding and that type of thing. It makes just, they had a lot going against them for this photo.
Yeah.
But in terms of just, the photographical evidence of this being a dark, nasty tornado, they sure nailed that. So.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Dennis, what do you think?
I agree with Nick a lot here. So what I very like in this one is the hail and the rain coming across the whole image, and the dark tornado let pop it up a bit more, the raindrops and the hail. So I like this one, and it adds so much for the movement, and you can almost feel the wind and the around you. It makes you feel standing in this position. So this one is great. Maybe I would crop out a bit from the bottom and from the top left because it's so bright up there. Maybe just a tiny bit. So and the tornado moves, maybe a bit to the left or so. But it's just a small issue here. I cannot see it on my screen here very well, but I think there's a dust spot on
some dust spotting. Yeah.
Just.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe here. Yeah.
Yeah. So
There's also something interesting I noticed that up here, like, and I don't know what it is, but the tornado is very brown, but there's this like edging where it turns to like a blue or a cyan or something, like a different color, like right here, and I don't know exactly why. If that was
it's like some banding or
banding or something in the editing that maybe had done that. So
okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd like to add another
Go
thought
ahead.
to this. So I'm quite drawn to this image in some ways, and what I like about it, it has a really stylistic feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I say this because you have basically color blocks, right? You have a darker green color block, you have a lighter green color block that are triangles, and then you have this line of sort of this brownish yellow grass that goes right in the middle as to say, this is a barrier, halt, don't go past here, danger,
Yeah.
And what I would do is I would really crop in from the top quite a bit, maybe a good 20%, to really force the viewer into this violent moment, confronting this sort of barrier between the greens and having this brooding tornado in the back, these little vortices that are spinning around and really just sit with that for a moment. In terms of technical things, yes, there were some dust spots and some weird color artifacts, perhaps due to some either editing that was done like on a gradient or on a radial filter or something like that. I'm not quite sure, but I really like these stylistic components of this image.
Great. Awesome. All right, we'll go to the next one. Another shot of Sudan, a little closer. And what do you guys think of this one?
Yeah, I mean, super cool. I really think that this was at almost the same exact moment that far back structure shot was taken.
Yeah.
I would imagine that it was right around that same time. Obviously, super cool. You know, shooting from the dark side of the tornado again is very difficult. The foreground is, you know, well exposed, um, and again, it's really sharp too. It looks like it's pretty darn sharp. Um, but you know, it's a very kind of typical tornado photo. Not that that's a bad thing either. It's just kind of one of those quintessential. It reminds me of a Kansas tornado, even though I know that this is in Texas, right? But yeah, it's just it's a cool photo.
Yeah, Dennis, what do you think?
Because we know the other shot of this one. Me personally, I would prefer the other one because I'm a structure guy. So I know how it's look above the tornado, and I want to see it. But I think the close-up of this one, the tornado itself, it's beautiful, and technically, I think it's well shot. It's well exposed. Shutter speed is good, and maybe some small issues with in post with some. I think we have the same issue like the one before with some color bending or so on the top.
Yeah, there's
maybe this area, right? Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it comes from contrast stuff or so. I don't know exactly.
Maybe it's the exporting method.
Maybe it's this one. Yeah, maybe the export could be. Yeah, but overall, I like the detail of the tornado. It's so with a very thin funnel coming down to the ground, and yes, clearly visible the dust swirling around there. I like this one also. So yeah, as we said in every picture, it's netting. So it's I would love to be in the spot. So
you will soon.
Yes, hopefully.
I think all that stuff is correct. I don't know why, but I feel like it's again maybe a little flat or lacking color or a little cool or something, because I feel like this field that this is green, and maybe it should be just a little bit greener because it looks like so again, I don't know, I think it might be a little bit cool for me. Linda, what about you?
Yeah, I would echo that sentiment. It feels a little cool to me, and I would probably lose some of that foreground. That's not doing anything to help the story, you know. So I probably crop in from the bottom a little bit, try to adjust the white balance. But overall, the shot composition itself is rather nice. I even kind of rather like the farming sprinkler equipment there along the foreground. It all kind of leads to this point where the tornado is. So in terms of that, I'm fine with it. If you want to be nitpicky, and I might remove those little power lines to the left more, to make it more minimal, I guess is the way of putting it. But yeah, the shot itself is great.
Awesome. All right, we'll go to another shot. Might be the same photographer, but you're talking about the structure. So obviously not like the other one with the full structure, but more of it, which to me, the black and white is a nice touch here. Maybe briefly, if I'm looking at it, looks really dark in here. I would have tried to at least save some of the detail in this area. But the black and white is kind of nice. I didn't see very many black and white photos of that Sudan.
Yeah, in this version, the foreground is more cropped out, so it's showing more of the actual scene, and there's more structure, obviously. So I like this one. So maybe the top left, I would crop it. Crop it a bit out, because this bright area, nobody needs this in this particular shot. So the action is very in the center where the tornado is, and above with the structure. So maybe I could imagine a vertical crop could work here very well, in my opinion.
Or maybe a 16:9 where you just bring it down a little bit.
Or maybe a 16:9. Yeah. So I like vertical shots, so maybe
Yeah.
it's a personal
No,
thing.
I mean, I agree with you. I
Yeah.
think a vertical shot would look cool. So
Yeah, but I like the black and white version of it very much because it's a whole different approach of this storm. So
Yeah, so I'm like a big like black and white fan when it comes to storm structure. Like one of the only photos I have that I've ever taken that I ever made a big deal out of printing and putting in my house is a black and white photo. And it's storm structure. And like what you're getting here is just this big swath of what looks like art to me. You've got just this big block of all of these different textures and layers. I completely agree with Dennis that I think that just that little bright spot in the top left corner could have been cropped down and maybe pull the picture in a little bit because it's so cool. You just see this wall of weather and it's very textured. And then you've just got this very sharp, beautiful tornado below it. And I love black and white stuff. So this was a favorite of mine.
Yeah, Linda, what do you think?
Yeah, I would definitely crop the top out. I would keep it, I like it kind of wide here because you have these really nice, these nice striations, these nice bands there. In terms of how the black and white conversion was done, of course, I guess that's the personal taste. This is a somewhat lower contrast version of that. Not sure. I mean, you would have to play around a bit, maybe go in and dodge and burn just a little bit. One thing that I really particularly like, if you were able to remove these little power lines that are on the bottom left of the horizon, leave the trees, then the farm equipment kind of, the width of that kind of mimics this lowering out of the storm there. And so this is something that I rather like. And so stylistically speaking, if you crop down from the top and you had this, it's very nice composition. And that's how I would fix it. I like that the foreground here is a bit more minimal. My eye isn't super drawn to it. So this is very nice image.
Yeah, agreed. All right, this go on to this one. Looks like that same tornado that we were looking at earlier. Maybe the one with the rain slicing across. It feels like the same kind of area. I think my initial thoughts, I probably would have maybe cropped it just above this line right here, just to get this out, because I don't think that's really needed. It just makes me look at it right away. But I think if it had cropped up a little bit, it's a nice tornado. I mean, you can see I think the rain bands, the rain curtains going around this, unless it's noise, but I feel like it's more like those rain curtains swirling around, and it's just, I don't know if the tornado was that dark or if in post it was darkened up, but I mean, it just looks so ominous in this house right here. I feel like this could have been also an amazing image using like a 50 or even like a 100 to just with that tornado there to get the house and the trees and this big brown blob behind it would have been incredible too. I would have wanted to shoot it with both and probably not have the time to do it. But it's really powerful looking. Maybe a little bit blown out up here, but you could probably try to bring that back, but maybe not blown out, but just a little bright.
Yeah, a couple of things I see about this one. Obviously, big, nasty, dirty tornado. Again, tough shooting conditions.
Yes.
And I kind of think that this photo had to be wide like this to really kind of give some scale. When the tornado is just kind of so dark and brooding in its place right there's not a ton of definition. I think that you need to even that out with some more definition around it by showing the cloud structure. You can see a nice occlusion wrapping around the tornado there, which is really cool. If I had some nitpicks with it, maybe a little bit of cyan in there, especially up in that top middle area. I know that little area is blown out over there, but again, they're probably shooting in really dark conditions, and so they're probably trying to even that out a little bit. There's some techniques that are out there that you can obviously use to change that. But again, that peace of mind and doing those types of things when you're out there looking at a big dark tornado, it's very difficult. So yeah, but overall, it's a good shot.
Agreed. Linda, what do you think?
Well, one thing that I kind of like about it is when I first saw this image, I just saw a big broccoli, just a dark root and a broccoli guy on top of it. So I like that it's right in the middle. I like that the house is there in this case. I feel that there's a little story there that is being told. It even makes me somewhat forget about the power lines on the side. I'll echo your sentiment. Either I would have run up to that, whatever this gulch is up there, and photographed ahead of it, or I would have just cropped it out together. In this case, it doesn't work as nice as the barrier from the other one because the other tornado was so close. It was really quite a strong statement, I think, with that line in there. And then I'll also would agree with what Nick was saying about some of the cyans, and even in the top right, what you might do is perhaps even brighten that up a little bit, lower the contrast or the saturation in this case, because sometimes when you increase the contrast, it brings with it the saturation of the colors. So if you're mindful of that, you could kind of try to even that out and bring a little bit of brightness onto that right area to kind of balance the left being much brighter than the right along just the top side there. I don't know if they darkened that that right side of the tornado down to where it meets the ground. It seems like they might have, just because I feel like behind there on the right, I would have expected it there to be darker then as well, but it's a bit brighter there. So I'm not sure if this was a creative choice that was made in post, but those are the things that I would change a little bit. Maybe a little bit on the cool side as well.
I do think one thing that's kind of cool about it, if I'm seeing it correctly, is anytime you've ever seen a radar image of a hook echo at the bottom wrapping around, I mean, we can see the left side of the hook coming in and wrapping around the tornado.
So cool.
Like, this is like a radar image right in front of us. And
that's so cool.
I think that's just incredible. All right, we'll go on to this next one. Another locket tornado that I missed. So, Dennis, what do you think of this one?
First, I like this shot very much because of the light is hitting the tornado and the contrast with the dust cloud, with the dust swirling around the tornado. But I think this was the one which was a bit out of focus, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit, a little soft. Yeah, the truck, it's weird because this truck almost looks sharp, but the trees don't. So
maybe that's not so great in this one, but overall I like the framing that where the tornado sits in the shot. It's great, and again I like the falling hail. You can see the dynamic of the wind and what's going on there, some action. So that's great overall.
Nick,
but
Nick,
maybe it's a bit also here a bit cool.
I'd have to agree with the being a little bit cool. And again, too, I think that this shot was taken similar to a photo we had talked about a while back when you had that really nice lighting that's on the tornado, and it's kind of a bummer. You've got this kind of tree line there. It maybe distracts. The foreground really isn't really sticking out to me, but overall a decently well composed and well shot photo of a very beautiful tornado. And the lighting is always really nice to see that tornado with all that bright white lighting on it.
Agreed. All right, Linda, do you have anything?
I would say that despite the trees being there, like if you found yourself at that location and had to shoot this tornado, they waited for the right moment, because I guess you have a little dip between those trees. You're able to get that guy right in the middle. I might go in and remove these poles and that little truck. And I might even crop up on the grass a little bit. Again, I don't really feel that's helping here. And then maybe adjust the white balance. But this photo, I think, despite the fact that there are trees there, actually has all the makings, I think, of just with a little bit of polish to make it a really standout image.
Yeah. I think if you, if those trees are there and you feel like they're blocking it, going to something a little bit wider can make that less noticeable, because maybe you'd get the more, the details above.
Yes. Also.
But I do think it also, like you guys said, a little cool, maybe a little flat, like color wise. I can't even tell if it almost looks like it was through a window, but I don't know, maybe not. But yeah, it's lacking a little bit of that color. And I think I would do what Linda said, crop it up a little bit. But again, I wish I was there. So this one is just awesome. I don't know if these are little dust spots on the side or if it's just closer debris. There's so much debris in this photo and dust in this dust cloud. It's obviously, I think possibly it was the Landspout day in Colorado. Possibly, I think that's what it was. And this brown swirling dirt is just freaking amazing. And one of the things I noticed upon closer look was the dirt road leading out to it, which I mean, we talk about it all the time, but scale in some of these photos is so important, because without that road, you don't really get a sense of how big it is or how far away it is. And then you realize that this road goes out here, and if there was a little car sitting there, that is just like a quarter mile, half mile wide swirl of dust, and it makes it just seem even more powerful. But I just love, like everything about this. Maybe, the fence in here, you could crop up a little bit just to keep it more minimalistic. But that's again nitpicking, but I really love the action going on here.
Yeah, I really want to see this on a big print. and looking on all the details in this one. So it's so minimalistic, but there are so many details to look at. So the dust cloud is it's amazing. So there's so much going on, and there you have so many different shapes just above the ground. So it seems it's right in front of you, but it's so far away. So it's a very interesting image, and it's confusing in the same time.
Yeah.
So, but I love this one. It's one of my favorites.
I struggled with this photo, and that's like with you talking about it being unique. That's one thing that I was thinking about too. It's like if you showed this photo to somebody that like wasn't into storm chasing or tornadoes, they would be like, "What the heck is that?"
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to discern what it is. Obviously, we know as storm chasers what's going on here. But I wish that the photo, and I mean, I don't know if it was possible at the time. I wish that there was a little bit more light so that we could actually see some of the definition of what's going on in that dust cloud a little bit better. And again, I don't know if that was possible because I wasn't there. And I kind of wish the same thing about the foreground too. I mean, I'm sure that they're shooting from shadows and it was dark, but I'm wondering if there was a way that could have been pulled out a little bit better, because I think that this photo has a lot of merit to it to just be like just a really cool conversation piece for sure.
Yeah, the thing that I like about it is that it just sends my imagination in a way. I see like an upside down dove that was blown out of the air, with its head tilted around, or maybe an upside down turtle, or I don't know. I just see these different things, or upside down mushroom. And I think what Dennis said, when you have a nice print like this hanging in your office or in your living room, it just every time you look at it, maybe you see something different. One day the road really catches you. Another day you see a different shape, or just a different part that's a bit the brainy parts of the cloud that just kind of send you thinking about things and just being there in the moment. I might go ahead and this photographer probably tried different crops, I imagine, with this shot. I imagine it's already a bit cropped in. I would crop out that foreground entirely, because it competes for detail with the detail that's in that dust cloud in the back. And like you said, I don't know if this was a Landspout. I've never seen this, so I don't know exactly what happened on this day. I couldn't really tell you where it was, but I'm really drawn to this shot overall. I think it's composed nicely in the frame, and it's very, very fun shot.
Yeah, I agree. I think what I was thinking, the same thing about cropping. I think you could go to a 16:9 and push it up where it's just the bottom of it's just right around here, and then just leave nothing but the focus on this, and that would be just.
And then you still have that little road to take you in.
Yeah, you still see the road, which to me, like the road is like, besides this, the road is like my favorite part of the photo because of the story it's telling and the scale it gives. And so I think, cropping up just a smidge would be great. But it's still, now I see a little horse head here with ears.
Isn't that fun?
That's great. All right, here's one of the other photos, I think, from earlier that I think that, this obviously, well, I guess the photo we looked at first was the same one, but this one seems a little bit on the green side. But again, technically like incredibly sharp, and also a nice aspect of storytelling. If you zoom in, that you see a person hanging out their window videotaping the tornado, which is just kind of a.
We don't videotape anymore, Mike.
Oh, that's right.
It's over. If you're dating.
What do you call it? Record video, not videotape. There's no tape. There's no tape.
Maybe there is in yours.
It might be. I'm old. But yeah, I do like that little aspect of the detail when you zoom in. I mean, it is like a super sharp photo again, and the debris is great. And yeah, it just feels like this edit is definitely on the green side. This is really, kind of green through here and green through here. This feels a little bit more correct up there, but a little bit too green and kind of blown out over here, which stinks. Maybe that's why the other crop was more square to kind of get that out. But man, what a scene to be at, and to be able to capture it technically well is, other than maybe the blowout spot, is just amazing.
Plus, all these photographers really should buy prints from each other for just having a shot of themselves in the presence of this tornado. It's quite cool,
Oh my gosh! If that was my truck, I would.
Car, right? You'd have it live in your living room.
I would be paying.
I have done this before.
Yeah. Oh, I have. Nina, who was one of the finalists last year. She has a picture of me looking away from Tahoka, but with my truck and me and the tornado, and I, paid her for it so I could use it on my website and stuff. I'm like, this is great. So you're right. Anybody in those cars should definitely be asking for prints and buying.
Yeah, I think one thing that I might change about this image is really crop in from the bottom a little. That extra piece of road, I don't know, to me is a little bit distracting. I do see that the horizon's pretty much on that lower third, but you don't always have to follow those rules. Crop in a little bit. There's not really anything of interest in that little extra stretch of road. But one thing that I actually really like about it is that the debris is getting some light, these white pieces of debris.
Yeah.
And I think this is what I like about this image versus the last image. I think you guys are right in that it's a bit on the green side or something happened. Mm-hmm. And I also know, even from what Nick said earlier as well, that it's so bright in the back there. It's really hard to take an image and just in one exposure, depending on the camera, that you have to be able to capture that total dynamic range. But as Nick said, there's a couple of things that you could try to do. You could try to take a couple images and try to shoot one a little bit darker so that you can bring back a little bit of that overexposed area. Yeah. But I really like this image.
Yeah. Dennis, what about you?
Oh, nothing to add. You already said everything. Yeah. But yeah, I like here that, like Linda said, that there's some more light coming from the side and lit up the whole scene. Even the road and the cars are a bit brighter than the last shot from this photographer. And and also the debris is more visible here, and but that's it for this one. Incredible. Hey, I would pay for to get in this spot. So yeah.
So we had 3 different photos of this nearly identical scene here, and this one was in a landscape view, which made it different from the others. But again, we really did have a lot of the same subject matter. And then so it kind of comes down when you've got 3 very similar scenes, kind of comes down to nitpicking some of the technical stuff. Saw a little bit of green here in this one as well. Yeah. But I mean, overall, just a crazy scene. So.
Yeah, I'm just in awe of, the scene itself. And also, the left side may be a little blown up, but the technical stuff. And like with Linda pointing out how the debris lit up, it highlights just all the action going on, and kudos to capturing it like this from this spot and this sharp is really great.
Super cool.
There's another one I think of Lockett. This one's just a little bit tough for me. It's really bright and feels like maybe some areas were a little bit blown out and probably lacking some color. It feels super duper flat, and I can't decide if it's just been maybe kind of sharpened with some clarity or something, and then not really anything else, because I know from the other shots we've seen a little more color here, but it could also be on the very tough side of the tornado to shoot at, maybe from the other side. So then you're looking, the light is harsher and therefore makes it a little bit tougher to capture.
I can touch on that a little bit since I was there that day, and you were dealing with a lot of differing light situations. You can actually see in this photo, it shows it really well. There's actually some blue sky out there.
Yeah.
And so we would get these instances of blue sky poking through cumulus back there. And so the photographer is dealing with that. But even given that, I do believe that this photo is a little bit on the bright side and possibly a little heavy on the sharpening as well. Yeah. But otherwise, it's a cool photo of a great looking tornado. It's nice to see that light shining just at the bottom of the condensation funnel there. So that's very cool.
Yeah, I think the photographer could go to the fence and shoot over it
Yeah.
and just have the field on it. It would be much more cleaner and more minimalistic style. So, or get a few feet away from the fence and put it better into the scene. But at this point, so it's a bit distracting the eye from the whole scene. So maybe next time go to the fence and just shoot right above it and use the great, nice looking green fields as a foreground.
Yeah.
Agree.
I wonder if this image was shot somewhat overexposed. When I look at the clouds just to the right, for example, if we're the finalists, that set of cumulus back there, they feel like they're starting to look kind of gray, which is sometimes something that you can see when you try to reduce whiteness too much in your images. I wonder if this is what happened here. But one thing that I really like about this image is, when you're out there storm chasing, sometimes you just get this like shaft of light that just comes over the scene, even though you're in this dark area, and it's like, where is this coming from? And I feel like this kind of highlights it. Most of these images that we've seen of this tornado are more dark, but sometimes you get this little shaft of light coming through and it really lights up the grass. I would probably reduce the sharpness and contrast on this grass, because I feel it's a bit distracting, taking away from my eye looking at the tornado. And like Dennis said, maybe run up to that fence. Nick can comment to this more than I can because I wasn't there. But was there time to run up to the fence? Is that a safe thing to do? Which direction is this moving? How much trouble are you in if you make the guys in the truck wait another 20 seconds for you? Things like
no, they would have had plenty of time at this point. I certainly don't want to compare myself or my wife and how we chased that event, but I literally just jumped out of my truck and ran into the middle of the field to shoot this tornado. So I have my own photos. Obviously, we're not going to enter the conflict of interest.
Sorry.
That's perfectly fine and understandable too. But you're going to have to answer to my wife on that one.
Sorry, Ashley.
No big deal. But the photographer could have very easily gone up to the fence at this point, regardless of which direction the tornado is going. They are on the dark side of it here. If I had to imagine, they might be a little bit kind of north, shooting down south almost. So I wouldn't think that the tornado would be moving towards them at this point.
Yeah, and the other thing is that you can do is, if you do take the shot here, you can always just, depending on the megapixel of your camera, you can always just crop,
that
up to right here.
Yeah.
And then, clone out, these couple little pokies on the fence, and then you just have this little field and you have the tornado. And so if you can't do that, at least maybe do something by like trying to crop it out.
And I will say, I want to add to, so many of these people, I imagine, spend quite a bit of time educating themselves on how to be in the right spot at the right time. And they started doing photography as a way to document their experiences, but perhaps their knowledge is greater overall of the weather and a little bit less with the photography. And I would encourage them to reach out to other photographers who maybe their editing they like, or there's something that draws them to it, and just ask for little tips to help themselves along.
Yep.
I don't want to minimize the amount of effort that goes into these photos, and I hope that our critiques don't show that. But we also hope to encourage to make the photographers themselves better at showcasing these incredible experiences that they're able to document. So I just wanted to throw that out there. That's, even though we're nitpicking at little things, you're entering a contest and competing against the best people that have entered the contest for a chance to win. And so what it takes is really paying attention to some of these smaller things. And I, for one, and I know the other guys are as well, are more than willing to help along. Phone a friend. Does this look okay to you? Don't rush to get your image just into a contest. Contests can be great learning experiences, but get it right, as right as you can in the moment.
Yeah. Well, and that was, that is kind of the, behind this contest is, one, to catalog and kind of document the best photos every year, so people can always look back and go, what were the greatest photos from, that year, but also to help educate. And criticism is definitely tough sometimes. If someone criticized one of my images, I probably would have a hard time with it, or be like, whatever. But early on, if someone had said something, I probably would have hurt. And but there's two ways to take that: either try to get better and or maybe take it bad and get frustrated. And you really, this whole thing is to try to help raise the bar for everybody. Learn what the great methods are, the great editing things, the little things you can tweak to make it better. And so take it as learning. Mike Meswell, last year when he was judging, he talked about how he went into a sports editor's office and showed him his portfolio of sports images, and the guy went through them and trashed every single one. He's like, crap, like literally, I think was saying like crap. And all it did was motivate Mike to get better. And then he got better at it. And the guy liked his images down the road. And so it's hard sometimes if someone says something bad. And we don't mean it that way, because this photo is in the top 20 of all the tornado photos entered. So it's a great picture. The sharpness is, the sharpness and quality of that capture is awesome. There's not a lot of motion either. So it's a quick shutter speed. It's just a couple little things that you could do to just enhance it. So Linda has great stuff.
I want to add something else, just in terms of critique. So we're 4 of us here currently that are critiquing, and sometimes we're given 10 or 20 seconds to make a comment. This sometimes is not enough to really describe. We all 4 have different ways that we would attack this, or we would change this, or shoot this, and all of that is interesting input. But please remember that we can't always communicate everything that we would like in the short amount of time. And so to the photographer, this may be like, well, you didn't consider this or consider that, but consider that we have just a short period of time. If any one of these photographers wants to know from me, and I'm sure from Mike or Dennis or Nick, an additional critique, please don't hesitate to write in or ask about that. We're not trying to do a disservice. And I know that everybody receives critique slightly differently. For Mike Meswell, getting a "this sucks," crap, whatever, worked to motivate him. If somebody did that with me, it sometimes can have a discouraging effect. So, but we cannot read our audience here. We don't know the individual people's personalities, so we cannot cater to a specific type of critique that would motivate them. And sometimes to some of these photographers, then they come across as discouraging, and it's not meant that way. We just don't know you well enough to comment to you in a way that would resonate.
Yeah. And we do, on the site, we do have a thing now where you can get a personalized critique of the images you submitted. So, agreed. Great stuff, Linda. All right, guys. Oh. I'm tired of talking. It's going to take a nap.